All right, so today we are diving into a part of the Bible that, you know, on the surface might seem a little dry,
Yeah.
but stick with us.
Oh, yeah.
Genesis 36. We're talking about Esau,
Esau.
the birthright bowl of stew guy.
Right.
But this is way more than just like a genealogy.
So excellent.
We're talking legacy, different paths in life, and how promises play out over generations.
It really is fascinating how much detail is packed into just this one chapter.
Yeah.
It lays out not only Esau's wives, Adah, Aholibama, Bashemath, but then all of their kids and even some grandkids, too.
Wow.
We're talking, names like Eliphaz, Reuel, Jush, Talam, Korah. I mean, there's a lot of so-and-so begat so-and-so going on here.
Yeah.
But it's building to something important.
It's like we're zooming in on this one guy's life.
Right.
And seeing how his choices created a whole nation, the Edomites.
Yeah.
They become a pretty significant group.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it all starts, right here.
It does. And the chapter tells us that Esau settled in Seir,
Right.
which is a mountainous region.
Okay.
So if you think about that, like geographically, how that's going to shape their history and how they live and how they interact with other groups.
Right.
That's huge.
So I'm starting to see how this is more than just a list of names.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean? Like, what can we learn from all these begats?
Well, there are, I think, a few key themes that jump out at us.
Okay.
First, legacy and identity.
Okay.
Esau's path is different from his brother Jacob's.
Right. Jacob becomes Israel.
Exactly. He becomes Israel, but both of them become fathers of nations.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Bible is saying that both those paths, both those legacies matter.
So it's not about comparing who's better or more successful.
Right.
It's about recognizing the value of each person's journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads us to, I think, another theme that we see here, which is this idea of diversity within God's plan. The Edomites and the Israelites are going to have their own unique stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're intertwined. Sometimes they're in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
But it's all part of this bigger picture. It's like a tapestry.
That makes me think about how, we often try to fit everyone into one box.
Yeah.
Or one way of thinking.
Right.
And maybe there's more beauty in embracing the differences, like you said, like those different threads creating this richer tapestry.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then finally, there's this theme of promises unfolding over time.
Okay.
God promised both Esau and Jacob that they would become nations. But it takes generations for those promises to be fully realized.
That's a good reminder for us today. I think we live in such a fast-paced world where we want everything instantly.
Right. And microwave society.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And some things, especially like the most important things, take time.
They do.
And patience to grow.
Yeah. I think what this chapter reminds us is that we might not see the full impact of our choices or actions in our own lifetime.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're not important.
Yeah.
It's a call to play the long game.
Yeah.
To think about the legacy we're leaving for future generations.
I love that.
The long game.
The long game.
Okay.
And, speaking of legacies and different paths, there's another layer to this story that I think is especially relevant for us today.
Okay.
Remember how the chapter lists out all of Esau's wives?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't all from the same background.
Oh, interesting.
He marries Hittite women, Hivite women, even an Ishmaelite.
So Esau's family is like a blend of different cultures right from the start. That's pretty interesting, especially considering how much emphasis is placed on lineage and heritage in the Bible.
Exactly. It's almost like this mini melting pot happening way back then.
Right.
And if you think about it, this mixing of cultures was probably pretty common in the ancient world.
Yeah, even if it wasn't always spelled out in such a detail.
That makes sense. I mean, people migrated, they traded, they interacted with different groups all the time. But I think we often picture, like, biblical times as being very separated.
Right, and I think this chapter really challenges that assumption.
Yeah.
It's not condemning the fact that Esau married women from different backgrounds. It's just presenting it as a fact of life, as part of his story.
So are we saying that, like, the Bible is advocating for multiculturalism? Because, I mean, that's a pretty hot-button issue these days.
I wouldn't say it's that straightforward.
Okay.
Remember we talked about how the Edomites and the Israelites had their share of conflicts later on. So it's not like this blending of cultures always leads to like perfect harmony.
Right. But maybe the point is that it's complicated. Like, There's value in preserving your own heritage,
Uh-huh.
but there's also something to be gained from, encountering and learning from other cultures.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not about erasing differences, but maybe about finding ways to coexist
Right.
and learn from each other, even when it's messy.
Yeah, like instead of seeing different cultures as threats,
Yeah.
what if we saw them as like adding richness and depth to the world?
I love that image.
Yeah.
And think about how that applies to our own lives.
Okay.
I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, different families, different experiences, and sometimes those differences can lead to misunderstandings or even conflict.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
Right.
Family reunions can be interesting,
Oh, I bet.
to say the least.
But imagine if we approach those differences with curiosity instead of fear.
Yeah,
What if we saw them as opportunities to learn and grow and to expand our understanding of the world
right.
and of ourselves?
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to force everyone into one box,
Right.
maybe we should be celebrating the things that make each of us unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a tapestry.
I'm really feeling this tapestry metaphor today.
Yeah, the different threads, even the ones that clash a bit, are what make the whole thing beautiful and interesting.
So we've got legacy, diversity, patience,
Right.
and now this idea of embracing different cultures.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked from just this one chapter of the Bible, and there's still so much more to explore.
I know, but before we get too carried away, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
What's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah.
I mean, so much good stuff packed into Genesis 36.
Right.
Right, we started with what seemed like a simple family tree, but wow, did we uncover some deep truths about legacy,
Yeah.
different paths in life, patience, and even how we approach other cultures.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like these ancient stories have something to say to us even thousands of years later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway for me is that there's more to a person's story than meets the eye.
Oh, for sure.
Like Esau, we might remember him as the guy who made a rash decision, traded his birthright for a bowl of stew, but his life unfolded in such a complex and fascinating way. He had his own unique journey, his own legacy to leave behind.
Absolutely. And that's something we can apply to our own lives too.
Yeah.
It's so easy to make snap judgments about people
Right.
based on what we see on the surface, but everyone has their own story, their own struggles and triumphs, their own unique contribution to make.
It's like that saying, don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes.
Oh, I love that.
Genesis 36 is kind of like walking a mile in Esau's shoes,
Yeah.
seeing the world from his perspective. And
Yeah.
it gives us
That's a great way to think about it.
a whole new appreciation for the complexity of life
Yeah.
and the different paths we all take.
It's a reminder to be open-minded, to embrace the differences we encounter, and to recognize that everyone has something valuable to offer.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. So, dear listener, next time you come across a passage in the Bible that seems a little dense, don't shy away from it. Dive in.
Yeah,
Ask questions and see what treasures you can unearth.
absolutely.
You might be surprised by what you discover about yourself and the world around you.
Happy digging.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.